People with Down syndrome were often grouped together with people with other intellectual disabilities under the umbrella term of
wonderful.
idiots
But
from
how do I
birth.
make money
Evidence.
off depressed people?
Oh god! Yeah, I was gonna say, bro. Dude, I would be terrified of this situation.
Hit harder.
You know, I don't want to be. You hear about a certain rage, shall we say? Let's put it that way.
And he worked in what was then called the Royal Earlswood Asylum for Idiots. This was a charitable asylum with.
That's so base. That's where a lot of you belong, to be honest. Who's ready for the Down syndrome palate cleanser? Anyone? Anyone ready? I don't know how this happened. I think I was basically like scrolling through Twitter, you know, blissfully free of the, you know, the bullshit that I'm getting bored of. I will not speak the meme. You know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I saw this. YouTube knew I was about to close the app and the algorithm was like, let me lock in. How were people with Down syndrome treated in history? Yes. Yes, yes, please. That is right up my that is right up my street. I was like, that's the perfect thing for me to talk about as a palate cleanser. Let's have a little butchers at this. Okay. We're in, let's go.
In today's video, we will look at the history of people with Down syndrome, from how they were treated to how eugenics sought to eliminate people with this condition. It should be noted that some of the language used in this video will no longer be acceptable, but it's
Yes!
important in understanding its history.
Yes, let's go. We're going to get some slurs as well. Let's fucking go. Absolutely based. Great to hear. Disturbing history. Thank you.
And how
Disturbing.
language and values have changed over time. Down syndrome, otherwise known as trisomy 21, is, simply put, the presence of a full or partial additional chromosome. Typically, a human will have 23 chromosome pairs, vital components of a cell to hold our DNA. In individuals with Down syndrome, the chromosome pair number 21 will have an extra chromosome, either a full or a fragment of one. This additional chromosome alters the blueprint in the development of the embryo, with too high a dose of certain genes leading to congenital conditions.
Didn't Sweden eliminate Downs through mandatory abortion? I don't know if it was mandatory abortion, was it? I just thought it was like, you know, very socially acceptable to do so. It was like, you know, you kind of just did it. I don't think it was mandatory, but I think they were like, come on. You don't have to do it, but it was Iceland, one of those Nordic countries. They were a bit more like, you know, Ugas, burgers, smurgers, blurgers. They said it like that probably, but they were like, you don't have to, you don't want to. But come on, you really want a Downs kid? Nah, fucking get rid of it. We're like, okay, fair enough. You twisted my arm. But I don't know how mandatory it was.
The extra copy of chromosome 21 occurs due to the failure of the chromosomes to separate fully during the production of the sex cells. There is no direct cause for the cells splitting in this manner, though it has been noted that mothers over the age of 35
What are these drawings? They've drawn them. I've got to be honest with you, they've been a bit harsh in these drawings, haven't they? They've literally drawn the worst possible like vision of it. They're like, right, how can we make this look as bad as possible? Draw that, just so people can see how bad it is. That's what they show you in Iceland when they ask you if you want to abort the fetus. What do you reckon? You want one of those? Nah, don't think so. Right, into the abortion chamber. Let's get to it.
have a higher chance of having a child with Down syndrome. Down syndrome will result in several different clinical conditions, as it affects many parts of a person's systems. People with Down syndrome will often display intellectual and developmental disabilities, neurological features, congenital heart defects, gastrointestinal abnormalities.
How do I make money off depressed people?
Hypothetically, would you eliminate Downy babies?
I support some level of eugenics, yes. I think you just got to bite the bullet on that. If you support abortion for any reason, you will by its nature support eugenics. And this is what was always so frustrating, watching lefties argue about this, because they would act like they're so against eugenics, but then they would support abortion for any cause. Well, if you support abortion for any cause, you're supporting someone aborting a fetus because it's Downs. And that is a form of eugenics, yes, whether you like it or not. And it's like, just, you got to accept that. I vividly remember the serfs railing against eugenics in a debate, talking about how it was evil and shit like that. And it's like, bro, you support abortion for any reason. You do support eugenics in some fashion. Maybe not directly, you could argue. But a consequence of that mindset is you'll be supportive of some eugenics. Right? It's like, yeah. You've got to just bite the bullet on that, really. But obviously people don't like that idea because they think of eugenics as evil scientists in a lab, you know, rubbing their hands together, trying to wipe out, you know, Jews or something. And it's like, no. You know, there are certain forms of modern medical science which aim to eliminate certain, you know, imperfections. And I think arguably that is a form of eugenics, yes. You know, just say, yeah, I support some eugenics. There we go, job done.
And characteristic facial features. And as many as 50% of babies born with Down syndrome are born with heart problems. This is tragically the leading cause of mortality in people with Down syndrome, especially in the first 2 years. As for the history of people with Down syndrome, with it being a genetic condition, they have been part of human history so long as there have been humans. But before the medicalization of the condition, Down syndrome was not recognized as its own disability. People with Down syndrome were often grouped together with people with other intellectual disabilities under the umbrella term of
wonderful.
idiots
But
from
how do I
birth.
make money
Evidence.
off depressed people?
Oh,
My
God.
wife is pregnant with a Downy. Nah, GG, go next vacuum that sucker.
Oh, my God, dude, that's great. Thank you for the 420, Dofer. I appreciate it. It's hitting on another brilliant... Oh, my God. I'm so glad they're hitting on this point. What is this as well? Dude, I knew this would be banger. I knew this would be a banger video to cover. I could just tell when I saw the title. This is right up my street. This hits on another brilliant point as well. So, you know, you may not be 100% wrong, but that's a terrible way to express that opinion. Yes, it is. And that's exactly why I expressed it that way. You got it. You've nailed it. That's one of my ancestors, probably. So, you know, there's obviously a big push against using the word retard. And the argument is that, well, because it's got a medicalized history and it's been used to target people with mental disabilities and deficiencies. And it's like, okay. But then these same people will use other language which has got a historical link to describing disabilities and stuff. And it's like, well, why that word in particular do you think is not okay? But other words like, say, idiot or dumb or whatever the word is. Like, all of these words have been used, generally speaking, historically, to describe these types of conditions. So you don't really get to use those while simultaneously decrying others for using that word because all of it has been medicalized, you know? And you can use this logic to so many different words. It just makes it a stupid point. And you can just say that you personally are upset by that particular word and you don't like it. And that's fine. But, you know, you're inevitably going to be inconsistent on this because some of this language is just so rooted in our lexicon from years and years and years. And a lot of it has like lost its strength. And in fact, I would even go as far as to argue that the more we use the word retard, the better it is because the more we can move away from its medicalized terminology as we have with things like dumb and idiot. Like idiot is not really conceived of in this way. People will just use it freely because we've stripped it of that prior medical context. So let's use it more, I'm saying.
People with Down syndrome were often grouped together with people with other intellectual disabilities under the umbrella term of idiots from birth. Evidence from 5th and 6th century burial sites in France indicate that people with Down syndrome were buried with other members of the community. This could indicate that they were not stigmatized and were treated just like any other member of the community.
Oh.
Although people with intellectual disabilities like Down syndrome could not own land, nor could they inherit.
That logic can be applied to the M word.
How do I make money off depressed people?
Okay, but all the Downy fetus ghosts now haunt you forever.
Okay, Dave.
Still feeling the same?
Sure, why not? What are they going to do? It wouldn't. Come on, I'm not trying to be. Listen, I'm genuinely not trying to be mean towards Downs people. Okay.
To Chud Nation.
Thank you, fuck, for the super
So
chat.
wholesome to see Chuddy learning about his people. Sad face emoji, sparkling heart emoji, sparkles emoji, sparkling heart emoji, Daddy.ora is sexy, hot face emoji, fire emoji, sparkling heart emoji, wow.
Thank you, El Dottore, for the Prime sub and all that stuff. Downs are indistinguishable from the French. Good point.
Inherit. So too are there examples of people with Down syndrome being abandoned and neglected, with families unwilling or unable to care for their complex needs. As people with Down syndrome often have many health problems, most died at a young age without their proper medical care. People who appear to have Down syndrome appear in a number of paintings or in sculptures throughout history.
Are you sure this isn't just an Asian person? We're not got a mix-up here.
Though much of this is modern-day interpretation of the facial features of those depicted. Those with the condition were often confined to the role of the eternal child or the holy innocent, and so in such paintings they were often depicted as angels or alongside Jesus Christ. Before the development of state-run institutions, responsibility for the care of disabled people fell on the family. However, there are examples of religious hospitals that cared for people with intellectual disabilities. Down syndrome was first described in 1860s.
I was actually thinking about this the other day, about what Victorian times must have been like and whatnot. Before the institution of like state hospitals or hospitals that would take on the care of this, it'd be pretty rough to have this situation. You got to care for, because people think of people with Down syndrome, and they tend to think of the more, or the less, well, how do I put this politely? The less taxing version of it, or where it's lighter. You got a lighter sort of like, version, right? Where you can have a bit more independence and etc. etc. But in many cases, it can be like functional. Yeah, you can be more functional, exactly. Whereas there's some that are a lot more debilitating, and they lead to such severe, physical issues or mental disability that you need like direct care constantly, And people push this idea of, stop being like this about Down syndrome people. Well, they're human too. And it's like, sure, I don't disagree with that. But we're talking about the reality of having to care for them. That's what we're dealing with here. And so whilst I understand not liking some of the representations, I think this came up recently. There was some sort of thing being pushed, and it represented Down syndrome people in a certain way. And the point was being made that they're not all like that. And I think it was like the lesser version was being shown, and it was like, well, hang on a minute, people with Down syndrome can have a lot more debilitating issues. There are a lot more of a strain on their families. And by just presenting the more self-sufficient individuals, it paints a narrative that isn't really correct in regards to Down syndrome. Oh, yes. That was it. The ad about the Down syndrome, yes. So basically, the ad was about Downs people having sex or something, and it was presenting like more functional Down syndrome people doing it, and it didn't really take into account there's many Down syndrome people that if you had sex with them would be tantamount to rape because they would not be able to meaningfully consent to it, right? And it's like, it was a bit deceptive, and maybe you need to tell the fuller picture just so people have got a better understanding that, there are potential consent issues because the intellectual disability could be so severe, JF Gary Epi was, I hear, grabbing his hands together when he saw that. Come on now. That's too far even for him. What was Howling Mutant's hit tweet? Is this it?
Hey bartender.
Oh, this
you
is it.
assume
Yes.
that I cannot drink a margarita.
Yes.
So you don't serve me a margarita? So I don't drink a margarita. Your assumption becomes reality. And parents, you assume that I cannot live on my own. So you don't encourage me to live on my own. So I don't live on my own. Coach, you assume that I cannot hit harder. So you don't train me to hit harder. So I don't hit harder. And teacher, you assume that I cannot learn Shakespeare. So you don't teach me Shakespeare.
Old MacDonald had a farm.
So I don't learn Shakespeare. E-I-E-I-O. But hey, if all your assumptions become reality, then assume that I can drink a margarita. Will you serve me a margarita? So I drink a margarita. I assume that I can live on my own. So I live on my own. I assume that I can hit harder. So I hit harder. I assume that I can learn Shakespeare. So, what
Off depressed people.
I certainly wouldn't assume they can't hit hard.
Yeah, I was going to say, bro. Dude, I would be terrified of this situation.
hit harder?
You know, I don't want to be ableist here, but you know, you hear about a certain rage, shall we say? Let's put it that way. Could be quite concerning if you're on the sharp end of that. Maybe. Okay.
Assume that I can learn Shakespeare. So, what fools these mortals be? I learned fucking Shakespeare. You assume I can swear, right? Assume that I can do that job. That I can go to parties. That I can have sex. That I can be on stage. Assume that I can. So maybe I will.
Yes, yeah, thank you for the yes, it's all coming back to me now. So, the criticism of this advert was that, okay, that's all well and good, and if you've got a less debilitating, more functional effect of this, fine. But there's many people out there who do struggle with this and do have an issue with this. So it's not really correct to just portray it as, oh, here's the people that can function in normal society with this. It's a nice idea and a nice message in principle, but you're not really telling the full story, and it's a bit misleading. You know? What you've been trying to talk about, I think what I'm saying is extremely clear, is it not? I'm not laughing at them, I'm laughing with them, all right? How is what I'm saying not clear? This presents an incorrect image in order to, you know, push a progressive image or idea in regards to Down syndrome. And by doing that, you're missing out on important points which could mislead people into their perception of this particular issue. Yeah, are you a sufferer? Is that why you're getting so incensed? Is that because you're a sufferer? Oh, sorry. I shouldn't say sufferer. I shouldn't say sufferer, should I? I should say someone that is blessed. Blessed. You're blessed with Down syndrome. That's the more progressive way of looking at it, right? Okay. But it's so obvious the simple point that's being made here. If anyone's got any tweets from the time that spoke about this, I'd be interested to throw them up. Because there were some good takes about this. That, you know, make the point if you can't understand it. You've been gifted with an additional chromosome if you don't understand the point I'm making. Yes, exactly.
6 by Dr. John Langdon Down, and of course it is from him where the syndrome gets its name. Down was a British doctor, and he worked in what was then called the Royal Earlswood Asylum for Idiots. This was a charitable asylum with...
That's so base. That's where a lot of you belong, to be honest. So great. God, I wish they still had names like this. It's such a great name, isn't it?
Patients admitted through recommendation. At a time when many people with intellectual disabilities or mental illness were simply locked away for indefinite periods of time, this asylum had different goals. It catered for children of school age, whose families otherwise would not be able to afford institutional care. The goal was to teach the patients useful life skills and to prepare them for integration into the community. Whilst working as the superintendent...
Wow, that's really interesting. So if you had enough money, you had them institutionalized indefinitely, which you just completely fucked for them, I'd imagine. Whereas with this, although it probably wasn't perfect, it actually seems better that you're actually trying to help people move forward. That's interesting, isn't it? So you look, the state isn't all bad after all. Is it a charity one? Maybe it was a charity one. I didn't really understand. But anyway.
For the Earlswood Asylum, Down began to categorise groups of his patients. He grouped the patients based on those with similar facial features and intellectual...
This guy looks pretty sharp. He's got his little fucking, mullet shit going on. The little suit. They've done him up nice.
...disabilities. But this categorisation was done through the lens of racialised pseudoscience.
Oh.
Down wrote his paper...
Oh, no. There's the sting in the tail. Well, maybe not for some of you. You probably like it. There is the sting in the tail.
Observations on an ethnic classification of idiots, in which he put forward the theory that it was possible to classify different conditions by ethnic characteristics.
Okay, that's wonderful.
Classified people we would now consider with...
Wow! This is so good, dude. Thank you, fuck, for the super chats. Okay.
Conditions by ethnic characteristics. Down classified people we would now consider with Down syndrome as the Mongolian idiot, or as Mongoloids, as he believed that they looked Mongolian. His classification of people
yes,
with...
there it is. That's where it comes from. That's where it comes from. The Mongolian idiot. Much more... I prefer that name, to be honest. It sounds better, doesn't it? Oh my god, dude. That's so based. I'm going to classify these idiots by racial lines. That's a great way of it. He looks a bit like a Mongol, so we'll go with that. Mongoloids, perfect.
Intellectual disabilities along racial lines was never accepted, and Down himself would later abandon his own beliefs. After leaving his position at Earlswood, Down set up his own private home for people with Down syndrome, called Normansfield. It was here where Down ran a facility with the highest standards of comfort and hygiene. The patients at Normansfield received an education as well as being able to enjoy leisure activities like horse riding, arts and crafts, and gardening. Down passed away in 1896, aged 67. His grandson, Norman, born a decade later, was diagnosed with Down syndrome. Down's work in identifying the characteristics of people with Down syndrome caught on by the turn of the 20th century. By this point, Down syndrome was referred to as Mongolian idiocy, or Mongolism. Even before the causes of Down syndrome were understood, there were attempts to eliminate...
Mongolism makes it sound like an ideology that you can believe in or something. That you could just... Oh yeah, I believe in Mongolism personally. That's my personal views on things.
The condition through eugenic means. Eugenics is the scientific theory that humans can be improved through selective breeding of populations. In the early 1900s, eugenics was not a fringe idea. It was not only taught at leading universities, but eugenic principles became enshrined into law. Indiana was the first American state to introduce the sterilization of people with Down syndrome, with eugenics being the justification. Plenty of the...
And from what I understand, the Down syndrome people love it. Love a bit of that. You know, love a bit of the old... You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. The real crime after crime here being committed. Terrible business.
States followed suit, with 33 of the 48 American states passing such laws. People
this is a very classic moment where it's like, we're obviously going to be well, some of you will probably think this is good, but any decent person would think this is an outrageous thing to have happened, terrible thing to have happened. And yeah, sure, but then we are judging by modern day standards. Doesn't make it any less bad. But at the time, like, this is what they believed. And it's why, obviously, with any sort of science, medical stuff, you need to have some level of flexibility in order to be able to change your mind on the basis of new information. That's why the trans stuff from the leftoids is like a great example of this, right? Who will generally support the idea of science, but then as new information becomes available, they won't be flexible to change their mind because it wasn't ever about the science. It was about a baseline ideological belief that they want to push forward, you know? Like, this was what they thought was best based on the best analysis and science they could do at the time. So, I don't know, it's like... Yeah, it sucks now to look back on, but this is what they came up with, you know? They sterilize severely intellectually disabled people. Is that a bad thing?
Okay, that's wonderful. But how do I make money
off
depressed people?
If it was simple as yes or no, would you be in favor of eugenics, with all its evils and benefits? Yes or no?
Well, I would have to answer yes, because there's some level of eugenic aspects that I'm for. Like, yeah. Like, I'm for a parent being presented with potential genital not genital defects, genetic defects that a fetus has, and being given the option to terminate if they wish. And I think that is reasonably classified as some form of eugenics. But I don't support eugenics more broadly. I don't support, you know, like for example, I mean, I don't know. I can't think of an example off the top of my head. This shit, it seems wrong. And yes, I get the idea. The problem is I think that, you know, sterilizing someone is something that one has to decide, like, by, you know, vasectomy or remove it. Vasectomy could be undone, I guess, can't it? I think. But say, for example, a woman having their innards removed, the ovaries and shit, right? Women can get that done, which would sterilize you. That's something you have to decide yourself and have to give consent for. I don't think that can be done to you against your wishes. It has to be done voluntarily. No, it cannot. Oh, sorry. Wait, no, I'm an idiot. Wait, no, that's not right on this section, is it? I'm a fool. I'm a buffoon. Are those okay or not? Or are they old terms? I don't know. But you can get the snip, not a vasectomy. The snip. You can get the snip. That can get reversed or something. Anyway, regardless, the basic point is I think it's something you have to consent to. I don't think it's something that can be put upon you. And it is complicated with someone with intellectual disabilities. They obviously cannot understand that. So I don't think you can ask them. And I don't think you can do it to them without their desire. So no, I don't think you should do that.
Down syndrome were included as acceptable targets of this practice. As eugenics took hold, some began to link Down syndrome and other intellectual disabilities with immorality as well as genetics. It was seen as not just a genetic defect, but as a moral contagion that could harm society as a whole.
What?
In 1927, the United States Supreme Court ruled in Buck v. Bell that the state could forcibly sterilize people with intellectual disabilities. As many as 60,000 people, with many of them being people with Down syndrome, were sterilized during the push for eugenics in the United States.
Oh my god, dude!
Okay, that's wonderful. But how do I make money off depressed people?
But as a proud racist, does that apply to non-whites?
I treat all races the same in my visions, okay? Thank you for the super chat. I do not have a difference based on the race. I always find this with American history, right? Where, you know, you guys love to bang on about how great America is and how perfect it all is. And then there's some absolutely deranged atrocity that's occurred. And you're like, well, okay, well, you did that though, didn't you? So maybe your little constitution analysis isn't as perfect as you think it is, because sometimes you fuck it up massively. Oh, that's wild.
But these laws would go on to inspire some of the worst examples of eugenics. The Nazi Party in Germany carried out the mass execution of tens of thousands of disabled people in a bid to improve the genetic stock. People with Down syndrome were framed as a drain on resources and a cost that the state could not bear. Under the Law for the Prevention of Hereditary Diseased Offspring, thousands were sterilized. But in 1939, Hitler authorized the Action T4. T4 was a secret program to murder those deemed life unworthy to live, and was euphemistically called involuntary euthanasia. Children and adults with Down syndrome were among the first victims. Doctors selected children for death under the guise of medical care and moved them.
Okay, this part ain't so funny. I don't like this bit. This bit's a bit rough. This is a rough section of the video. I've got to be honest with you. Yeah. Yeah, this was a thing. There's a movie, I think. I'm pretty sure there's a movie that's based on Action T4 stuff, and it's about like a little disabled kid and stuff, and he's knocking about all happy and everything, and then at the end he gets killed or something. Right? You guys know what I'm talking about? Seems like they're having a good time. Right. God, Poxy is so deranged, aren't they?
Specialized killing centers. Upon arrival, patients would be examined so that any
No, boy in the striped pajamas was a Jewish kid. It was a disabled, mentally deficient kiddie in this movie. I saw a movie summary about it ages ago. Canada's MAID program be like, well, interesting point, isn't it? I wonder how that applies to this sort of thing. Is Canada's MAID program the Action T4? New video essay.
Existing condition could be used as a false cause of death. Parents were told that their children had died of natural causes.
God, man.
Their bodies were then cremated and sent back to their parents. However, it would later be discovered that the ashes of those murdered were all mixed together. So when parents received the ashes, they received a mix of multiple victims.
That is...
Under Action T4, people with Down syndrome were gassed, poisoned or starved to death. This horrendous program of mass slaughter would prove to be the blueprint for the horrors of the Nazi death camps. Thankfully, after the Second World War, eugenics as an ideology fell out of favour. But for many people with Down syndrome, the legacy of eugenics still caused much harm. Many people with Down syndrome were confined in institutions that were overcrowded, underfunded, and filled with abuse. One example is the...
Did someone say massive? Oh my god, you're sick in the head. Stop it. Here's your bag of ashes. Yeah, your kid is maybe some of this, but we can't really be sure because they all got mixed together, so who knows. Anyway, good luck. Good luck. Oh, wait a second. You say you're Jewish. Okay, come with me. We got something we need to talk to you about in this shower over here.
The Willowbrook State School in New York. The school was home to many children and young adults with Down syndrome, who were left to their own devices and without much in the way of any care. Often patients at this school were left covered in their own feces, naked and unattended to.
Okay, right.
It was only in the mid-20th...
So we're now at the bottom end of the tone of this video. I'm sure that he's going to, you know, go back up and we're going to have a positive spin to end. Okay? Let's go. Positive spin at the end.
Century that techniques were discovered that allowed scientists to identify the shape and number of chromosomes in a cell. This led to the identification of the third chromosome and the adaptation of the term trisomy 21 to describe the condition. It wouldn't be until 1961 that an effort was made to remove the dehumanizing language of mongoloid, thanks in part to a better understanding of the causes of Down syndrome. The term mongoloid was seen as misleading and offensive, with the term becoming a pejorative. Leading scientists wrote a letter calling for the adoption of an alternative term for the condition, with Down syndrome being the one that stuck.
Wait! Eh? Hang on a minute. She looks alright, eh? What's going on here?
In the 1980s and 90s, there was a change in the approach to the institutionalization of people with Down syndrome. Families refused to give up their children, and community care became the focus. A number of discriminatory practices were outlawed, such as charging people with Down syndrome more for airplane tickets. Rights were cemented.
What? That is fucking insane, dude. You can't charge. Oh my god, bro. See, that is the kind of bigotry and oppression I can find funny, right? Because that's like
wonderful.
You know,
how do I make money
just
off depressed people?
horrible, but
I'm not
funny.
saying it's funny, but can you imagine leading a group of them to the room?
Okay, bro. That's disgusting. Fuck. Ready to bring it down. Fuck. Thank you for the super chat. Okay, sir. Oh, sir. I've just seen your ticket here. I'm just having a look at you. You don't seem to have paid the Downs premium on your fare, so I just need to apply that.
Okay, that's
That'll be
wonderful.
over £200,
How do I make
please.
money off depressed people?
Just a fun little Downy palate cleanser for you, chat. Proceeds to show some of the most inhumane shit in history.
Thank you for the 420. Come on, I didn't know it was going to go that dark, did I? But yeah, I mean, that is obviously just more fun, more comedic than anything else.
And community care became the focus. A number of discriminatory practices were outlawed, such as charging people with Down syndrome more for airplane tickets. Rights were cemented, such as having the condition be a protected characteristic to combat housing discrimination. As medical care improved, conditions such as congenital heart defects no longer proved to be a death sentence. Life expectancy for people with Down syndrome also increased.
Dude, yeah. I'm sorry, sir. I can't help but notice that your travelling partner has Down syndrome. Now, just a little tip for you, okay? It's actually cheaper if you stuff him in a bag and stick him in the hold. That's going to be much cheaper than the Downs premium, and he'll be all right. He probably won't know what's going on. So do you want to do that? Got some extra luggage cases if you want to stuff them in one of those, and you're going to save yourself a few hundred quid. Thoughts? Could you imagine?
In the 1940s, life expectancy was just around 10 years old, whereas now it's around 60 years old. All the while, people with Down syndrome became more visible, from actors with the condition starring in hit shows like Glee or Line of Duty, to the Special Olympics gaining popularity. Stereotypes continue to be challenged. Down syndrome advocacy groups seek to educate, provide support, and campaign for increased rights. But new challenges and controversies continue to affect people with the condition. With the advent of non-invasive prenatal testing, expecting parents can find out whether or not their baby might have Down syndrome. This has led to pregnancies being terminated where Down syndrome has been confirmed, with countries like Iceland having nearly 100% of pregnancies diagnosed with Down syndrome terminated.
So, the thing that you need to understand about that, right, and this is something that I really think people don't get with the abortion stuff. You can disagree with it, you can have a different perspective on it, okay? Whatever. But, like, good faith conservatives and whatnot that are coming to the table, they would view and feel the Down's fetus getting aborted, they would feel of that in a similar way to how you feel about a kid with it getting murdered, right? Like, because they see that fetus as a life in the same way that you would see a child as a life, you know? So I always find it frustrating when people are like so dismissive of people who are pushing like an anti-abortion perspective. Because it's like, well, they truly, not always necessarily, but in many cases, they do truly believe it is a life that you're ending, you know? Oh, well, too bad. I mean, and that's why I'm always willing to say, well, yeah, I'm fine with that, but it is a form of eugenics. And I think that's a reasonable, thing you've got to admit. But yeah. You feel zero sympathy for that? Well, that's fine. But, I think people will just hand wave it away.
Okay, that's
and act
wonderful.
like that's not the case when often it is.
How do I make money off depressed people?
Chud, I have a way to save the Downs segment. Give the chat what they want.
Dude, the Down segment's been fine. It's just that little downturn, excuse the pun. There was a bit of an issue there, a bit awkward to get through, but we got there.
Some have termed this a new form of eugenics or even genocide. And some scientists, like Richard Dawkins, have stated that it would be immoral to bring a child with Down syndrome into the world. There are plenty of passionate examples of advocacy available online, including from people with Down syndrome concerned with such efforts. People with this condition have long been part of human history, though often marginalised or misunderstood. Whilst much has changed, there is still much to be done in the acceptance of
Irish thing. I don't understand why the rest of the world care.
What is? I don't know what you mean. Thank you for the super chat.
People with Down syndrome.
This guy, the brutal death and lifestyle, life in a Nazi death camp, bro. This guy's really bringing all the, all the fun topics to the table, isn't he? Hey. Right. For the next fun segment, we're going to be talking about the Nazi experiment on children, on Jewish children, for the next fun bit of content.
But how do I make money off depressed people?
Howdy, chudlogic. I've learned a massive amount of knowledge today. Congrats on the massive turnout.
No worries. Thank you. Thank you very much for the support. Appreciate it. This leads quite nicely. I wanted to talk about this as part of the Down syndrome section, if you can call it that, I guess, or something. But yeah, it says it in the community. No, but this is actually fake. This is a filter which apparently makes you look like you've got Down syndrome or something. And allegedly, apparently, a bunch of like influencers have been using it. But yeah, maybe there's a video about it, but we'll see. Oh my god, dude, we watched this before. And it was the AI song that ruined it. Do you remember? Oh man, I remember this. It's just AI song with these as the lyrics. Terrible. But anyway, you get the point. I mean, yeah, this is obviously well. Yeah, that's obvious there. That looks like Uncanny Valley type shit. But yeah. Oh, that's a bit more convincing. That's a little bit more convincing, isn't it? Anyway, is there a thing about this? Influencers fake downs. Oh, there's this video about it.
Brad, who is your garbage person of the week? This might be the most depraved, insane Instagram model scandal I have ever seen in my life. You probably won't believe it, but then you'll kind of believe it when I tell you. People are using AI to take Instagram models and put the faces of people with Down syndrome over top of their faces so they can make money off the OnlyFans style accounts that they set up. Here is one. Take a look. This is from Princess Special _Princess 2. They have such riveting titles that get even more messed up the more you think about it.
Bro, what the fuck, dude? This is like another level. Having Down syndrome doesn't mean I don't know how to turn up. Because that first one that I showed, the model that did it had to come out and say, that's not actually me. Someone's done that to me. But it seems like this person is involved in the process and is comfortable with this happening. Yeah. It could be some sort of fetish content, I guess, couldn't it? Maybe. I don't know. Is there a big market for people jerking off to people that look like they've got Down syndrome but don't, with hot bods? Maybe. I don't know. Because I would have thought that the... what it's probably like is... I would presume we've got some sort of biological instinct to look at someone that has got some sort of developmental disability and to not be attracted to them. Right? That would be the kind of default position. Because we would, on a sort of... I would presume a fundamental level, see them as being an inappropriate mate or something, right? But it's a bit like the scat thing, right? We are biologically wired to not want to gobble on human shit, but then some people have like a twisted thing where it's gone wrong and they actually like that and are aroused by that. And maybe it's the same thing here, that there's something that's gone a bit wrong and twisted, and then therefore you've got a sexual attraction to people that have got Down syndrome or look like they've got Down syndrome. And so therefore this would be like red rag to a bull for you. Even though, so I'm pretty sure, well, based on statistics, there's probably at least one person here that would be into this. But based on the statistics, yeah, one person. But most of us here would look at this and be like, feel a bit perturbed and put off by this. But to that one person, they're brick the fuck up because they're like, wonderful. Yes, Down syndrome porn, sign me up.
Off depressed people.
Chud, what do you think JF Jeremy used his Epstein money for? I think he fully funded this filter for his gooning purposes before he murdered his wife.
Possibly. Thank you very much, an Austrian page of the 333.
They have such riveting titles that get even more messed up the more you think about it. Having Down syndrome, like, would you notice me if I walk past you?
Well, there's nothing wrong with that one. That one's a bit more normal. It's just the fact that they've got this thing going on. But other than that, it's fine.
Totally fine. But the booty's shaking all over the place. And then there's another one that they have that's like, does having Down syndrome means I won't find love? Here, let's go to the graphics that we have of some of them.
Oh my God. Dude.
Does Down syndrome mean I will never experience that first kiss? Does Down syndrome mean no one will ever love me? And so it goes from that weird emotionally manipulative one to this one. Down syndrome doesn't stop me from getting, oh, well, wow, what is happening?
Wet and wild. Dude, this might be one, I reckon this might be one of the guys. He's trying to play it off, but I reckon this is the one guy, the statistical anomaly, that has actually bricked the fuck up covering all of this. He's wanting to get wet and wild with a Downs lady.
All over the place. Tens of thousands of likes, hundreds of thousands of followers. And Special Princess had like a link when I went through it, and it takes you to this. What is it? All my links page for something called Jenny So Down.
Bro.
And I remind you,
where did my camera go?
That it is AI generated, but people don't know that.
Where did my I don't know where my camera's gone. Dude, how do I? Oh my god, dude! I've literally lost my camera. I flicked across so much, dude. I can't find my camera anymore. I literally flicked across. And so now it's over here somewhere. It's here. I don't know how to get to this part of my OBS. What the fuck? I'm not jerking it.
Okay, that's wonderful. But how do I make money off depressed people?
You could say they're down.
What if I move it here, move this? For a sec. Dude, how do I move it? Oh, wait, I know what to do. What if I move it this way? Can I move it like this? This is no, it's not. No, it's not moving. No, I can't move it. Oh, I'm there. There I am. Wait, hang on. Can I move it here somewhere? Oh, look, you can see my whole background. Look, you see my Hoover, my bag. Look at that. You can see more of me. Hey, can you see that? Oh, you can see that. Look, you can see more. You see my little wire over there? Look at that, eh? More of an angle. Anyway. Okay, I'll have to figure that out in a bit. Bro, I don't know what I'm doing. How do I move it? Sorry, Ollie. Yeah. Ollie said you could say they're down bad. Very good one. Thank you for the super chats.
That it was just floating around the internet, and it doesn't say anywhere that it's AI generated on many of these accounts, and there are many. And so it was so popular that it made it onto one of those accounts that takes comments and makes songs about it. Take a look.
They're playing the AI song.
It is the most internet cesspool pile of insane. And some people saw it there for the first time and chimed in and did.
Dude. They're actually taking the AI song and taking it like super seriously too. That's so, dude, the AI has actually worked. The AI has actually worked. I'll give them that. They're taking it super seriously, but it's obviously some fucking moron has just stuffed it into an AI thing.
Some investigations, and you look and you see in the notes on Twitter for that tweet of that song saying AI edited video, the real model, bad for teacher, does not have Down syndrome. Now, as soon as people noticed this, they started reporting what happened. So these are the anti-garbage people. And they started coming down. There are others out there. Here is one of the bigger ones. The one I showed you had 250,000 views. This one had 148,000. This is Maria Dopari. I can share it because it got taken down. But similarly, like there's some weird mix between things that are like overtly sexual and then oddly motivational. There's another one that's still up that's possibly it's still up because it's explicit about the fact that it uses AI, but the way it uses it is so weird and manipulative. This is Louisa Inspires, and you may get the hints that it's AI because it says, "I'm robot, I'm AI influencer, I have Down syndrome, I'm here to make awareness."
I mean, that's just what they talk like. To be honest, is they don't have the best grasp with the English language. It's probably real.
I can't wrap my mind around it. It is one of those things that you assumed would happen at some time if the million chimpanzees clanking at code that is the internet would eventually come up with it. But for those of you who want the slightly more ethical version of this, there are actually fitness models out there, Instagram models with Down syndrome, like this one, Sophia Girau, who.
Oh, this is the one that was in the video. Can we be realistic about this, please? This is getting a bit out of control here. Okay, this person clearly has an extremely mild form of Down syndrome. Their facial features are not particularly prominently Down syndrome. Or it could be, or they've done a bit of a, when they do all the fucking, they get rid of the blemishes, so to speak. They've done something like that. But she looks like, fairly non-Down syndrome to me. Well, no, I'm not. I don't know her. I'm not attracted to her. I'm just making fairly reasonable observations about what she looks like. And I'm saying she doesn't look much like she's got Down syndrome. Is that bad to do? Come on now.
In 2022, actually was one of Victoria's Secret's Love Cloud collection models. So I don't know what to do with all of that. But that's my full report. John, what are your thoughts?
Thank you for being so in depth. I'm finding out now that apparently this was a thing last night.
We did it on Happy Half Hour last night.
Yeah, I don't like humans, and I don't think that we should have been put in charge of things. I think that it would be better if we were still simpler creatures, maybe tiny little mammals in the trees. I think that should have been where we capped out. Sometimes it's good that there isn't a device in front of me with a button that were I to press it, the world would explode, because I think I would.
God, I just hate the overreaction to this, man. It's so stupid. Oh my God, yeah. It's so terrible, isn't it? I'd blow up the world if I could because of how bad this is. Like, dude, it's not that fucking deep, is it, right? Some fucking morons are doing a fucking edgy joke, meme or something. It's just not funny. Yeah, it's not being very funny here. The funny thing to do is admit that, bit tongue-in-cheek. Oh, that's a bit naughty, isn't it? But it's kind of funny. Something like that. But the way that they act, like it's like such a terrible thing and such a blight on humanity.
But how do I make money off
Ridiculous.
depressed people?
Chud, are you becoming a Downs chaser? Is that what this segment is about? Are you trying to tell us something?
You got me. You got me, guys. Okay, it's true. Everything you said is true. Thank you for the $10. It's TYT, what do you expect? I guess so. I guess it is just TYT's kind of style, isn't it, From trans to Downs, the chudlogic story. Ildare, that was a good one. That was not a mid-post. Well done, I'll give you that.
Look, if you're just gonna create a totally AI-generated person, then that's what you're gonna do. I think there's a lot of issues with that already, and we've talked about that before. I don't know why necessarily specifically making it a totally artificial AI-generated person with Down syndrome when your goal is to make money. It feels way worse, but even that feels like it pales in comparison to taking the actual creative output of influencers, fitness people, OnlyFans models, whatever, and then deciding, no, screw that. Not only am I gonna take that and monetize it, but I wanna go specific with it, so I'm gonna convert it over. I'm gonna take, again, a real face, a different person's face, Down syndrome. Like, just, I don't necessarily want more oversight and, I want those people to be found, and I want them to be locked up. And I know that they won't be, and it feels so deeply unfair that they're going to walk free and
locked up for what? Dude. Good luck with that, bro. Good luck with locking up people who are doing stupid Down syndrome memes.
Probably they've made a lot of money off of this, because that's as terrible as anything I can imagine. Anyway, thank you.
Who's your garbage person
of the week,
John?
I guess.
Drumpf is my garbage person of the week, actually. That was fun. I enjoyed that. Typical TYT take. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, guys, we managed to turn it around in the end. Okay, we went from, funny to bleak when the Action T4 stuff got brought up to having a bit of a laugh at the soy overreaction to the Down syndrome meme. So there we go. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, right, we're gonna take a quick look at some breaking VTuber drama that is apparently happening.